so-called flying saucers.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the SA. It's rotating.
The American people are ready to receive the truth.
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
Humanity is not the only intelligent species.
We are absolutely not alone.
Non-human intelligence exists.
UAPs are real, they're here, and they're not human. I spent 25 years as a senior official with the CIA.
I've worked on highly classified UAP programs.
28 years as an astrophysicist.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
A one-star admiral after 32 years of service.
People that come forward with this, I feel like they've taken their life in their own hands.
I was recruited to a highly sensitive government program that investigated unidentified aerial phenomenon.
For over 16 years, on behalf of the U.S. government, I worked as a senior intelligence official on the unidentified aerial phenomenon topic.
We learned that the U.S. government was involved in a long-running secret war with other nations to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
So look at that thing. It's rotating. There's a whole fleet of them.
The first country that cracks the code on this technology will be the leader for years to come.
China has established its own version of a UAP task force.
You think for a second that they wouldn't consider using it to achieve their ends of domination?
This is similar to the Manhattan Project. This is the atomic weapon on steroids.
This is so secret, very, very few people in our entire government have been allowed access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis, but that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees.
You better be careful about a government that doesn't trust its people, because there's no telling what they'll pull on you.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species.
It has so many beneficial impacts, including clean energy.
We should have disclosure today. We should have disclosure tomorrow. The time has come.
What else you want to know?
Welcome and Kill the Stigma. Look, today I think this information is like gonna be gold. I know the quality, I know the lightning sucks on my phone, the camera is messed up, and I'm trying to get that off, but it's not working. But this one I think was the most important leak of the year. And the most important, well, not the most important whistleblower in the course of the whistleblowers we've had. I think that one's David Grush, but this one's right there, man. And this is not a new story. It's kind of been out there for quite a bit, like, I don't know, a little bit, not quite a year, but I don't know, maybe 7 months, 8 months, or something like that. And this guy's Matthew Brown. And I want you guys, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna read in between the lines. We're not gonna go through that, like, no, we're gonna, what is he saying? What is he actually saying? Okay, because he seems nervous. He's knows a lot more than what he's saying. 100%. What is he saying? He gave this document, Immaculate Constellation, to Congress. And that was a whole thing. All right, let me show you guys, because I know there's at least two of you, those two guys, like, that are like my friends, that are not that much into this issue, and they're really enjoying it. And for those people that are learning, I don't know, it just makes it totally worth it. A lot of people that are into this topic would you know, oh, I already know this, but this is insane, and I don't know if you actually do, and if you understand what he's actually trying to say. Doesn't matter. It's going to be really fun. I'm going to start documenting my coincidences. I keep having so many coincidences with this topic, and I'm not sure if I'm going insane or if there's something to it. So I think I'm on coincidence number 10,542, and I think I'm going to have to start documenting these because it's almost like the phenomena is watching the whole disclosure process play out and responding to it. And I'll prove that to you. Sounds crazy. Let's go. All right, let's just start with some of the biggest coincidences right off. 2 hearings. We have 2 hearings. Well, actually, we had 3. And last time in November, 2 weeks after the mystery drone flap started over the UK, then it spread to Jersey and all over the world. That's one. But guess what? There's this other one. And it's almost like, look, let me show you this.
How frequently are UAP sightings over military installations? And secondly, I suppose hypothetically you could have incursions over just, say, regular airports. Is it obvious these incursions are more likely over military facilities than just a random airport out there?
Yes.
You know, well, it used to be sensitive bases in nuclear plants and all that. But, you know, since you said airports, you know, why not? The phenomenon is like, hold my beer. Check this out, bro. All right, so the story goes that there was a few UAP hearings. Politicians were trying to get to the bottom of it. But there was problems. There was a lot of momentum coming out. David Grush came out, whistleblowers, legislation, the Gallagher Amendment, the UAP whistleblower protection, and for anything UAP would get amnesty. But what happened? It almost seemed like there was a lot of weirdness with politicians. At first, a bunch would be pro-disclosure, and then things would get strange. Okay, and you know, I'm going to start with a few clips from the hearing of 2024. I'm going to show you Jared Moskowitz, and I'm going to show you Nancy Mace talking about the document Immaculate Constellation, which is something Matthew Brown presented to us and gave to Congress, and it was about a parent SAP program. So, yeah, a SAP, which is a Special Access Program, right? A very serious classified program studying UFOs. And the story developed very interestingly. And by the time after David Grush, there was a lot of weird things happening, a lot of just things just were not quite right. Let me show you.
But UAPs remain a controversial topic. I'm not going to name names, but there are certain individuals who didn't want this hearing to happen because they feared what might be disclosed. But we stood firm. No amount of outside pressure would ever keep me from pursuing a subject to ground, come hell or high water. On that score, I want to thank our witnesses for being here.
When the American people and members of Congress ask, are reports of UAPs credible, we're met with stonewalling. We're met with responses of, I can't tell you. And in fact, we're met with people not wanting us to have hearings. We're met with people not wanting us to ask you questions. In fact, many of us were told not to ask some of you certain questions on certain topics.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moskowitz. And I would now, committee staff asked me to go ahead and I will do it, to enter into the congressional record this 12-page document that Michael Schellenberger brought today that describes the Immaculate Constellation government program. So we will do that now. Every member up here has a copy of it. The first section talks about the unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation. And the second section about USG imagery intelligence. And Representative Luna just told me if I say Immaculate Constellation, I'll be on some list. Maybe a FISA warrant, so come at me, bro, I guess. But
I kind of think you should name them Nancy Mace and Jerry Moskowitz. You should say who's telling you not to ask certain questions. Oh, okay, so I'm gonna let you guys listen to Matthew Brown, which gave the document Immaculate Constellation. Where is that document? Right here. Fascinating document, and basically talks about non-human intelligence, UFOs, and our government's involvement studying UFOs, the mission. It talks about the executive branch in charge of, well, technically not really in charge of this, but how they don't have to tell Congress anything. And, you know, if I'll just this paragraph I just picked. The results of this investigation are deeply disturbing. So elements of the executive branch have conspired to prevent the U.S. legislative branch from exercising its lawful powers. So, you know, and there's a lot of cool sightings here. You know, some that are really interesting and other stuff. But the point is, this is Matthew Brown's story. I'm going to let him tell you the story and then the implications. We're gonna try to read between the lines what he's saying, because what he's saying is pretty interesting, what he wants to say. But first, let's listen to Matthew.
Let me add to that something that we noticed, and I believe it's true reporting, which is that when David Grush testified, Immaculate Constellation, before the world ever knew those words, was searched on Google a ton. Additionally, over the research and time and sources that we have, it has been confirmed to us under no uncertain terms that that was the name of a program with that nature. So if we're looking at it as like a LARP kind of thing, we get to the point where there's too many outside confirmation after the fact as well as that. Yeah.
If that had been the only thing I had seen and none of the rest of this saga had happened,
right,
we wouldn't be talking.
Totally.
You wrote in a paper that was submitted to Congress, and we'll go to a lot of details in that, but that this was deeply disturbing overall. Why was it disturbing to you?
Yeah, so as time passed, it became disturbing, especially after the sort of the process of Grush coming forward left a wake on the inside too. People were tracking that who weren't even involved, but were able to see sort of the distortions on the inside.
Distortions of truth.
Exactly. But also, bureaucracies and offices behaving weirdly around this subject, and sort of the movements for reaching out to Congress to get legislation drafted that eventually became that Intelligence Authorization Act and that first NDAA where they provided whistleblower protections. I think that was one of the moments that really started to convince me that this was not under our government's control.
Now, take a look at that pause. Look at his body language, and he thinks, how do I say this? How do I explain what I'm about to say? What I want to say? And then he says, this is not under our government's control. What does that mean?
That's a core of why we're talking today.
Yes.
What do you mean?
Just on an emotional level and blunt analysis, why the hell is Congress passing a law asking for UFO insiders from the intelligence and military community to come talk to them directly under amnesty about something that doesn't exist, isn't an issue? And if it does exist and is an issue, but it's secret, apparently our most sensitive congressional committees are not briefed on this.
Yeah, I find it at the core disturbing you having Arrow even ask for whistleblowers to come forward to them, having Congress asking for whistleblowers to come under amnesty to come to them. Yeah, something's rotten with that.
And then also at the same time seeing the sort of UAP task force and its slow death on the inside, and the death of the sort of open exchange of ideas and problem solving going on as another data point that pointed to something rotten.
So the UAP task force was established by Congress to look into the UAP issue. I think it was like 2018, 2019 when it started. It was after the New York Times and all that, and they established that body. And it was a small body, but honestly, it was a high clear people. And these people were getting to the bottom of the issue. You had Travis Taylor, Jay Stratton, you had David Grush, Carl Nell, and who knows how big the effort was, and we don't know like how many people were on it. But these people had very high clearances. They were getting to the bottom of it. They were getting answers. And the thing is, since these people were so high up, there was still a 180. Something happened that the more they started pushing for answers, eventually there came a point where something changed and the leadership changed. And then Arrow came in. They put Sean Kirkpatrick, which was the head of Arrow, which he's been in the hearing. If you just see the hearings, Luna just mentioned to him, called him a liar. He was it's a whole thing. Look, yeah, this guy's been trying to poo-poo the topic, right? He was also briefing NASA. NASA had a UAP study, and he was like basically in charge. So NASA would come to him for advice, and he had this National Security Council of people giving him advice of these gatekeepers, these people guiding him on what to do to cover this up. Legit, dude, this is insane, even to NASA. All right, so these guys were pulling the strings, and even with these people that were super high up, right? Like, yeah, so this happened, and this is the data point that Matthew Brown is talking about. And I'll let him continue, but this is it.
Mm-hmm. And the last one that really sealed it and really convinced me that I need to find a way to bring this to Congress, no matter how small it might be, it apparently matters, was when I was in USDI, I read the transcripts of Sean Kirkpatrick briefing Senator Rubio, Senator Warren, and Senator Gillibrand on the results of his investigation in his congressionally tasked Arrow report. And those transcripts, which were supposed to be open kimono, here's the truth, Mr. Senator, Mrs. Senator, Sean Kirkpatrick absolutely distorted, downplayed, and can't prove it, but I would say outright lied to the people who have direct responsibility for him.
Saying what? What did he say that was a lie?
So it's more of a lie of the whole thing,
the
big picture, right? In the meeting, it's, Congressman Rubio, we've heard about this incident. We just don't have enough data to go on it to really know what this is. We don't have any way of really figuring out what's going on. It could just be an anomaly. In fact, it's most likely an anomaly. So starting with an acknowledgement that, here, you have some data, but we have the insight and the scientific expertise to make you feel at ease.
Nothing to see here, folks. Move along.
Exactly. Although there was also political discussion involved and historic discussion. And, I read these transcripts once and immediately knew that
Veiled threat?
No, I knew that I was now something else. I had inside knowledge into the deception of our government by elements of our intelligence community. My blood ran cold at a specific point in that transcript where Mr. Rubio is discussing the legacy program. This was a subject of direct discussion with Sean Kirkpatrick in these meetings. And based on Mr. Kirkpatrick's replies about, as vague as they were, but unable to escape the truth of the legacy program, Mr. Rubio's response was, well, what the hell is the executive branch doing? Have they been running this for 60 years without congressional oversight? I might be paraphrasing a little, but that's near enough verbatim. And I saw that line, and I basically closed that file and had a pretty sleepless night.
All right. You said your blood ran cold, meaning you're pissed, you're spooked.
Scared.
What is scared?
So what Matthew is saying is that with everything he found out about the Immaculate Constellation document, about Sean Kirkpatrick, about Congress, about this whole thing about pushing for answers, but then being weirdness and acting shady and, passing legislation, trying to get to the bottom of it, getting answers, but then something happens and people get weird. What he's saying is that this whole process, this whole Constitution of the United States, democracy, it's not accurate. Something happened when it came to this topic that just completely changed everything. And there was a breakaway civilization. There's a breakaway civilization dealing with this topic. Some intelligence officials, a very small amount of elite intelligence officials and scientific people that are in control of defense stuff, that are basically more powerful than the president of the United States. They're like working with non-human intelligence, as insane as that sounds, due to a past deal with President Eisenhower in the freaking 50s. So how do we end up here? National Security Act 1947, President Eisenhower. After that, I'll let Jim Semivan, very high up in the CIA, tell you the story.
You're worried about panic, and you want to sort of dampen that down, and you also don't want another Pearl Harbor. So Truman, was it Truman or Eisenhower, created in 1947? So it would probably be Eisenhower. No, Truman created the National Security Act, where we created, the Central Intelligence Agency, National Security Council, Department of Defense, Joint Chiefs of Staff. I mean, that was all an outcome of World War II. I mean, it was this need to consolidate information and intelligence so nothing bad happens to us. But yet you have this problem, and it's getting worse because people are starting to see these all the time, these craft all the time. And it's clogging up telecommunication systems. People are worried about it. And it was a true concern back in the day. They were also concerned that the Russians would use it, to basically screw up our I should say the Soviet Union, to screw up our own communication systems by putting false information out there about UFOs and what have you, so they can, attack us. And very, very real concerns. I mean, we were very, very concerned about Russia and having to fight, or Soviet Union having to fight a war with them right after World War II. So what do? Well, you look around and you say, well, somebody's got to look into this. So is it going to be the Air Force? Is it going to be this new organization I made, CIA? Is it going to be the National Security Council? Do I give it to, another entity, the Army, the Navy? But you decide on probably, and you don't need a lot of imagination to decide where this landed. All right. There are certain organizations that have a certain charter to do this, and that's where it landed. And it landed with two main groups, and an intelligence organization and a DOD organization. And then you had to determine, how do we keep this secret? How do we not discuss this? Because we cannot this is even more important than the Manhattan Project. How do we keep, of course, what the Russians knew what we were doing all along, but how do we keep this important? So you basically say, well, the way to do that is really give it to private organizations, particularly the defense contractors, which were sort of a new thing, right? And let them work this out. Let's not give everything to one. Let's split it up and give each one a separate problem, and let's work on this. And then you determine, how am I going to keep this a secret? So there was such a thing. It was created during the Eisenhower administration, called the Presidential Emergency Action Documents. And very, very little is known about them. But I've known about them for years. And they give the president an extraordinary amount of power regarding extraordinary circumstances that may affect the United States for any kind of reason, whether it's a war or an invasion of some type. It allows the president to do things that normally he would have to go through Congress or the judicial branch to do. So it gives him that leeway. And there's a lot of these PEADs that have been out there, and they're always classified, at least as a secret level. Many of them top secret. But it's my opinion that Eisenhower created a PEAD and basically said, this information is never going out. It's going to stay exactly where it is till we can get a handle on it. And I think that's exactly where it's been for the last 80 years. And I don't think, my personal opinion, is they have much of a handle on it. I think they've been able to glean information, from this, down.
But do you think that the phenomenon or phenomena, however you want to look at it, are the architects of the secrecy?
It's something. The answer, I don't know, but the within certain circles now, that's the discussion, is that the government may be being prevented from discussing this, or being told not to do that.
What do you think of the idea of the potential or the idea of non-human intelligences having agreements somehow with some terrestrial or government organization?
I certainly think it's possible. I've had some information that said that it's actually what is going on, to a certain extent, which begs 1,000 questions, right? What did they say? What do they want? And again, are they the ones directing traffic? Right. My feeling is they are the ones directing traffic, and why wouldn't they?